Welcome to the Jumping Bean Magic Collective podcast. I'm Linda Lewis, founder of the collective, here with my co-host, Heather Manwaring. We started this podcast to dive deep into the creative experience. We explore themes related to the creative path and showcase other creators' journeys. If you want to know more about the collective and our mission of connecting creatives with meaningful work, please check out our website and follow us on Instagram. We'd love to connect with you. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
We're all together.
Hello. We are here with our special guest in person, Cecile.
Hello.
Terrillon.
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 Yeah, it's the hard French name to be pronouncing.
French R.
And tonight's episode is going to be all about the inner critic. So, where should we start?
Well, I think we should start with how this all came together.
Yeah, that would be great. I want you to lead the charge on this,
Me?
Heather. Yes.
Okay. Well, this really converged because I had an amazing conversation with Cecile. I reached out to her for support after a really, really hard conversation I had with a family member that just sent me spinning. And she gave me this frame on like why that's happening and like the functionality of it, of like why I started getting critical of myself or like wishing I hadn't said something, or like if I would have just done it differently and then I was harsh there, you know, just like kind of picking myself apart. She just gave me this frame about it that I wanted her to talk about today. But so anyway, we had that conversation, and then it just so happened that Linda was needing somebody and I could make it work to be here. And then she was in between a dance event and traveling already.
Yeah.
And so we're all here in Amsterdam together.
Yeah.
And I just can't even believe it. I'm like so happy about it.
I want to rewind though a little bit because let's talk about how we all know each other and how have worked with Cecile and like what that support relationship looks like.
Yes. We definitely started as friends first. Like we just would catch up
Well, we also, like, all of us have been in the same container with the same teacher. So this is where we know each other from. We met each other online.
Yep.
Online.
With the same teacher, gravitated towards the same space, got our mind blown.
Our world fell apart.
Our world fell apart together.
Yeah, together we're like, yes.
So we have a context, right? That is holding us already.
Yes, like we are committed to a similar way of being and a similar responsibility level and
similar way of creating
of like relating to our bodies and each other, you know, like really cleaning up relational dynamics and all those things that make this possible, like that make creation and magic possible.
Yeah.
And in flow and easier and more fun.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of jumping bean.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, we all met in this container and
I reached out.
You reached out.
I reached out because I was like, damn, like this woman seems really cool. And it was actually a stretch for me to reach out to you. It was like kind of scary. Like I really wanted to. But I was like, oh, I don't know if I belong with her. Like, and we connected a little bit that first year. We had a few calls and then kind of like fell back because we were like both really busy
in it.
Yeah.
Well, I was for sure in it.
Yeah.
And I just isolated and didn't really talk to anybody.
And then we saw each other again at an in-person event with that same teacher.
Yes.
And that's where we really reconnected. And after that, we've been having like regular calls together. Just, I don't know, like multiple times a month.
Yes.
Really. Yeah.
But then there was really a moment where like we both kind of deepened into the medicine part of things, right? Like we were connecting and just building a friendship.
Yeah.
And then I was like, holy shit, I like need that. I want that. And how do we do it? And then it was kind of like we swapped.
Yeah.
Right. Like I held a session for you, or you held a session for me, and then I held a session for you. And it was just so it was such a beautiful opening, I think, for both of us, both for our friendship and then us individually.
Yeah.
And then I think, I may not remember correctly, but there was this moment where I was like, I said something to you about like wanting more juice or something.
Yeah.
And then you were like, cool, here's all these things I'm creating.
Yes.
And I'm like,
just because of that
cool.
conversation.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, it just really deepened this thing in me that I see in you that's really beautiful, like your sensuality, your boundaries, your like way of caring for yourself and experiencing the world and building capacity. Like I just think you have so much brilliance, and you articulate things in a way that I don't often see or find or whatever.
Yeah.
Things that I already know about.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that I just continue to be blown away by what you hold, how you hold it, how you articulate it, how you like serve it, both in the one-on-ones and then in the group. I've just been continually like, damn.
Oh.
Like I want that, and I want that, and I want that.
Finish your thought.
Well, so I'm like, I have that same experience with Linda. So then I'm just like, oh my God, like now here we all are. Let's get together. Let's talk about these cool things. We all have just a specific brilliance that is just so fun to riff off of. Yeah.
We stayed up till midnight last night.
Yeah.
We were all exhausted.
But like so juiced up too, just like having conversations together.
Yes, super nice. So for the people who have not been in coaching containers in these types of spaces that we've been in, how would you describe what it is that you offer and that you bring? And I know this is spot, right?
It is hard. It is. I think it's like it's known in this in this world that it's like incredibly hard to be describing what it is that we do.
Yes.
So like, I guess like a way that I can talk about it is like, there's kind of different entry points that people usually find themselves in when they come to work with me. One is burnout and feeling like really overwhelmed and feeling like overworked or overstimulated. Like there's just this go mode that they're stuck in, and feeling depleted and drained as like a baseline, and they know that this is not really what they desire, what they really want. And then, so that's, I would say like that's one entry point. And usually there's also like a lot of ambition, a lot of desire to create, to do big things, to like write a book, do a podcast, do like have a family, you know, like it's like all like those really loud, big desires that are really exciting, but sometimes we don't have the energetic resource to actually execute on it.
A lot of the time they just feel completely out of reach.
That's
like,
true.
That life is way over there.
Yeah.
And I'm over here.
Way back here.
Yeah. And then there is also like the thread of like, right now I specifically work with women on like the good girl conditioning. So this is like people pleasing and like being nice and polite and being small and like making sure that you're not inconvenienced, that you're like having the difficulty to name your needs, to advocate for yourself, to express yourself, to tell the truth. Like all of those threads that are so difficult to move out of. And usually there is like a link with like having a freeze response in the nervous system, which we're probably gonna talk more about today.
Absolutely.
Because it's so crucial. But definitely having this sense of like having to make yourself smaller and to hide a little bit, because if you were to bring like the full thing out, something is gonna break.
Yeah.
Your relationships are gonna break. Yes.
You're gonna lose your job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Everyone's gonna hate you.
Yeah. And there's so much fear as well. There's so much fear in like bringing the real thing out.
It's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. So it's kind of like, I'm going to say like those two main things. And so I find myself cycling between a lot of different topics, but they all lead to the same place.
Yeah.
And so like one that I've just opened into recently and did a workshop on was sensuality. And like leading the women back to finding their own connection with their body and their own connection to their pleasure, their own connection to their sensuality, but not from a place of like being sexy or having to perform for someone else, or like, you know, like sensuality is like you're supposed to do striptease for your partner or something.
Yeah.
And that's not it at all. Like I'm trying to bring a different way of thinking about it that is actually like nourishment and like a nourishing connection with the body. So like sensuality is one, boundaries is a big fucking topic. Like boundaries and assertiveness, really big topic. Taking care of your needs, tending to your needs, learning to really know how to do that, because our needs are so big and there's so much of it, and it's like so hard to do like laundry, dishes, food all day, every day, and having to take care of like your business and money and clients and like babies, your boss and babies and like it's just like there's just so much we need.
Yes.
And it's really tricky to be well fed, to be well nourished, to be well resourced. And it's like something that I gravitate towards over and over and over again. Like nourishment is a really big piece.
Yeah. And I would say that those needs really do have to be covered before you can really create much.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's really frustrating for creatives because you feel like you don't, if you take care of all those needs, you don't have but a sliver of time.
Yeah.
Like we are creating after 9 p.m.
Yes.
Basically.
And we're exhausted.
And we're really tired.
We got
our
ass kicked by a toddler.
Yes. All of us. But that's where you have to dig deep and like push through a little bit, even though like something has to suffer to create a little bit. Especially parents. I think parents especially have to like push through the fatigue, push through like maybe, you know, the laundry and dishes suffer. Maybe you know, something has to give because you literally can't spin all those plates and have room to create. Unless you have a staff. Like, that's the
or like
issue.
lots of
and not just one person. If you have a staff, then maybe you are able to find that time to create. But I think like what you know, we haven't known each other very long, but I've watched a lot of your work. What I feel you bring is a lot of permission.
And
I think that we all like work in that space of giving people permission.
And she sees people too. Like we, you know, like she can just you know.
But to kind of like really take it down to like we're explaining it to people who have no concept of this. Like we all do coaching, guide the word coaching, but there's like not really any other term for it. Teaching, mentoring, guiding, like all those have some truth in there. And then you're meeting on a regular basis and you're held in what's called a container of a time frame under an agreement.
A couple of weeks, a month, like a few months.
Number of
up
sessions.
to a year.
And all of us have worked with clients that are, you know, long-term clients and some that are more like even a one-off session. But it is, you know, it's very different than counseling. It's very different than therapy. Like it's you are a co-creator with a guide. And we're all kind of in the business of, and this kind of came to me when you were talking, was like, oh, this podcast is really about like creating the life you want. And that's what we are all kind of ultimately doing in our creation, even if it has all different kind of packaging.
Of course, for sure.
To summarize.
That's a good summary.
I think that's a perfect segue to the permission that you hold too, because I feel like that's part of even why I'm here. Because I've had a few conversations with you, with Cecile, that even just the asking the questions that you ask open something where you're like, what does being rich or having richness in your life mean to you? The moment where I was like, what does it actually mean? Because okay, even if I had a certain amount of money in the bank, would I still feel scarce? I don't know. Right. And so it's okay. Well,
And the
so,
answer to that is yes.
and yes, yes, because it's not the number in the bank.
And we all know those wealthy people who are just
are bankrupt to a certain degree,
Yeah.
like energetically or
Energetically,
spiritually or emotionally,
or just so scared to lose it that they don't enjoy it. Or
Right.
Right.
Or So our orientation is to energy. So I'm thinking about it in terms of energetics and really feeling into what it actually would be for me to feel rich.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really being able to meet the fullness of my desire. To
Not
really
settling.
to
Not
not
settling.
settle, to have the full thing, to be able to say yes with money, with time, with energy, with no matter what it is, to be able to meet and have and choose the fullness of my desire.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like after that conversation, then you were like, "Hey, you want to come to Amsterdam?" And then, my desire was, "Hey, will you come? Can we all
I'm coming to Amsterdam." I'm like, "You're coming to Amsterdam? I'm not far."
So like, basically, I can hug you, you know. But anyway, but that's the magic of the permission, right? Okay. What does that mean to me? Oh, as soon as I can feel what that means, then it's like all of a sudden your kind of the universe or your energy or whatever like conspires to like shift you, and all of a sudden then I have a raise at work, and then then it's just like boom ba boom ba boom ba boom ba boom, like text of what permission
Can do.
you can really have in receiving that, right? And having that space and having someone ask you and model something for you. Like Linda, you model relationship and motherhood in ways that I absolutely want. And so that's permission to want what I want, that it's possible. You know, watching you with your husband, it's like, oh my God, yes. Right?
It's possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And until you see something, any sort of creation, because it's all creation, any sort of creation as being possible, you're always going to have some doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, the true entrepreneurs can get past that. Right? Because it's
we're laughing because we know.
Yeah, because we know. We know. Because like that doubt is like it's a spiritual initiation, really. Right? Yeah. I kind of want to like jive a bit on like the theme of permission and like mix it with the inner critic.
Yeah.
Because they're actually really linked. In the sense of, I think there is some kind of chronic shame that we all carry around.
Thanks, religion.
Thanks religion, exactly. That we all carry about what we desire and what we need, which both what we need and what we desire, we do not choose. We don't have choice over what we need and what we desire. That's very, very simple and very basic. But if you actually just even let that sink in, it's like, fuck. I can't control that. Fuck. I cannot control what I need and what I want. It's like it's choosing me instead of I'm choosing it. And there's this layer of shame on top of what the desire is or what the need is. Shame is trying to keep the thing controlled and contained and smaller, so it's easier to manage it. It's easier to live with it. It's less. It's like more convenient, less confronting, less difficult, less. It requires less asking of yourself and other people. Like there's less responsibility too. And I think I actually never really thought about it that way or linked it that way. I might have to pause for a second to just let it land. Yeah, the inner critic is like kind of like a mechanism of control, really.
Yeah.
Of controlling this wild, chaotic thing that is like moving through us. Life force, energy. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm also thinking about the conversation that I had with you, Heather. That was it was a different entry point and an angle on the inner critic that is more based on the nervous system.
Right.
understanding and frame. I'm not sure if I'm going to it right now or if you want to feed something back in here.
Well, the thing that comes up for me is talking a little bit about an introduction to the inner critic.
Yeah.
Like backing up
I
a
like
minute.
that. Yeah, I like that.
Kind of, everybody has it, I think. Maybe not everybody has it.
I mean,
not
everybody has it, actually. Yeah.
I think all creatives have it.
At least all creatives.
I think all creatives have it. And maybe we can each make our own definition. But for me, the inner critic is the person within, the voice within, that tries to keep a lid on things.
Yeah.
Tries to make us proper, polite, pretty.
Yeah.
The 3 Ps. And when it comes to creation, is perfectionism. We'll add a fourth, another P.
Mm-hmm.
That is part of my definition of the inner critic. Is when it comes from those angles, then I know that voice isn't true. But I will say that a lot of the time for me, inner critic is the voice of a specific parental figure.
Yeah.
And I think that also exists a lot for people. If you had a critical parent that wasn't even necessarily critical of you, but they were critical of themselves.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
A lot in front of you.
Yes.
This is a hot button for me. It gets passed on.
Yeah.
And you hear that critic's voice. And until you really can look at your thoughts and you can understand that your thoughts are not you, and you can understand that those voices don't belong to you, you can't separate it from yourself. So you just continue to kind of beat yourself up, right? And then in creativity,
or beat up your creations.
You beat up your creations, right? They can't see the light of day because they aren't X, Y, and Z. They aren't commercial. That's a capitalistic inner critic. They aren't
they're not good
desirable,
enough,
or they're not pretty, or they're not polite, or they're not perfect, or
yes,
all
the
those
4
things.
Ps.
The 4 Ps, right?
Yeah.
I think that's my definition of the like definition or like structure of the inner critic for myself.
Yeah.
I kind of want to hear yours, Heather, because like this is really good for me because this is the kind of definition that I've heard a lot of.
Well, and that's where I was like, okay, yes, this is the standard thing that I know, that I have experienced. And that's why yours was so mind blowing for me, because I was like, what?
I want to hear the new angle because this is one that I've worked with over the years, but it always comes back too because it's not gone. And I don't know if you can tell me if you've experienced. Can you actually completely heal, get rid of, kill the inner critic? Is that a possibility?
Because this is where just to go into my experience of it for a little bit before we jump in. I used to literally have my dad's voice and my stepmom's voice when it came to my art, because I started creating from a very young age. It just wasn't ever good enough, or like you didn't do that right, or you didn't do that right, or that's not what a horse looks like, or things like that. And you should have done this. Anyway, so I grew up with, I started internalizing that critic. I started looking at my own work with that critical eye. Oh, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. That's not what that looks like. Blah, 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 blah. But then I feel like there was a time, I don't know exactly what changed, but there was something where I stopped criticizing myself through my art. Then it was like, oh, it's just a relationship and I'm just experimenting. And I'm like, there was something that opened where that voice just left. And it was so liberating. Wow. I just feel the freedom to create however it comes out. And I'm kind of in a totally different relationship. But, and this is where I think it segues perfectly, is where I have continued to be critical of myself is in relationships, specifically conflict, where something gets heated, or I get the energy, the sensations get high, and then I spit, or I put up a wall, or where the conflict is just, it gets away from you. And then afterwards, it's like, oh God, I didn't do that right. I said that wrong. I probably hurt her. Really getting critical of those interpersonal dynamics when they get hot, or
when you have a conflict.
Yes, when you have a conflict. And then it's, oh shit, and then that's where I feel like you come in, because that was where I had a really devastating conversation with my sister, and I'm feeling all these things. I cannot ground. I can't focus. I am angry at myself. I should have done that differently. I didn't hold it well. There were things where I was just picking myself apart, and I have to go to work and I cannot focus. Can you help me ground?
Mm-hmm.
And you did. And then you gave me this frame that, what? Like,
Yeah.
So yeah. And that's, I'm like, we have to talk about that, because it's softened. I don't know if it's gotten rid of completely or killed or whatever, but there's something after hearing that softened in me, where I'm like, oh, and I could bring in more compassion and love and holding to those places that weren't perfect or weren't polite or it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
It's really true. I love the 4
Those
Ps.
came out of
Like,
nowhere.
wow,
I don't know
yeah.
where they came from.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah. And then
one thing before that came up too when you were talking is that it's probably the frame, the original lens of, it's not just a parent's voice, but it's a coping mechanism so that you critique yourself before somebody else can do it to you.
yes.
So if I can
self-protection.
if I can make things pretty, polite, perfect, do those things, then no one can come at me. And that is a little bit of like the retrospective.
Yeah.
Oh, I have this regret for what I've said or done or how I showed up. And if I beat myself up about it first and they come back with those same criticisms, I've already done that work.
Yes.
I've already like shredded
And-
myself.
Yes.
Okay, I think this is where I come in.
Take it from there.
Because
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
stuff to say about this.
Yes.
This, like, all of what you said is absolutely true. And I totally agree with it. I think where I have a perspective that, like, changes things is, like, I'm actually taking it at, like, a very, like, physiological body level that is not really, even if you know that this is a coping mechanism that you have, the awareness helps for sure. Yeah. Awareness always helps. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, intellectual awareness, intellectual knowledge about the fact that this is coming up from your parents, and because they were critical and then it got passed down to you. It, again, great
It's
awareness,
layer one.
but
Yes.
it's layer
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
Yes, it's layer one.
Yes.
For me, layer 2, and I fucking wish somebody had told me this before, is that your inner critic is gonna get the meanest and the most harsh when you have pushed yourself past your comfort zone to such a degree, is when you really push your own boundaries and you go really far out of your comfort zone. For example, in Heather's case, was to have a really hard conversation with her sister, where some truth was spoken that was not spoken before.
Yes.
Right? And was kept it under her.
Yes.
So it was a really sensational, tender, sensitive, uncomfortable moment that you had there. Mm-hmm. And the one piece that I gave you here is like, your inner critic is lashing out right now and is really freaking out because it's proportional to the level of sensation that this experience was actually holding for you. Mm-hmm. It's just a reflection of how tender this actually is for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is the piece of the nervous system where it's those moments where we expand into discomfort, the moments where you take the leap of faith, where you're like, I gotta do it. Like, yes. I feel it, like, this is true, this is the right direction, but also you're freaking scared.
Right.
Like, when you take a leap of faith that is actually really hard for you, that is really challenging, it is a given that you're going to contract on the back end. Mm-hmm. Like, the more you expand, like pushing really far out the boundaries, and you're like you're putting like all of this, like, I'm gonna do it. Like, when you use that kind of energy to expand on the back end, you're gonna crash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like a really, really harsh inner critic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you're like, and physiologically, you're gonna have a really, really hard time to come down from those kind of experience. You're gonna not be able to eat or you're going to binge eat. You will lose sleep. You will not be able to think clearly, not being able to focus, no concentrating. Resting is going to be really hard. You're going to feel jittery, agitated, like moving around. The thoughts are like mental spins, like you're rehashing the situation. This is where the nitpicking is coming in.
And the fighting.
In
like,
the
I wish I had said that different. Or,
She
said this to me and fuck
exactly.
her.
So all of this, when you don't have the frame of understanding your nervous system's limits and how much electrical charge, like how much energy can actually run through your nerves and through your cells without you getting fried in the process or like totally overwhelmed or like blown out. There's a really physical aspect to it. And so when you don't have that perspective and that frame, what ends up happening is that you're in the cyclone of it. You're in the storm. You're in the tsunami waves of like all the emotions, the sensation, and it's so much that you just believe the story. You're in it. You're in it. The frame that I hold is I've actually learned to name to myself. I'm feeling really agitated right now. I can't concentrate. One of my trigger points I'm going to say, or things that I'm noticing, is I'm picking up my phone and checking my message on loop. I literally just picked up my phone a minute ago and I checked my messages already. And I'm doing it again. And it's like, okay. And my frame here is to tell myself, oh, I'm dysregulated. It's not like I did something wrong, something bad is happening or whatever. It's just that my nervous system has perceived what has happened as some kind of threat. I've just moved physiology from feeling relaxed and safe and open and engaging and connecting with people and digesting food and repairing cells and healing my body to a physiological state of alertness, stress and survival. There's something that I am needing to be hyper aware of, and my body is literally flooded with adrenaline and cortisol. And when my body is flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, the internal experience is this mental spinning, heightened, like inability to focus, inability to sleep, inability to stay still, like all of, like, this is textbook fight or flight. You know. And so reframing that as I'm just in a fight or flight, and it's not wrong. It's not a bad
it just
thing.
It's what's happening,
and we need it. It's incredibly intelligent, and this is the kind of physiology that you do not control, in the sense of the same way that you don't control when you need to sneeze or when you need to cough. It's just what the body does, you know. It's just a thing the body does. Like digestion is like you don't constantly choose to digest your food, right? And the fight or flight state is what is saving you when, for example, if you're crossing the street and there's a car that comes really fast at you, you immediately shift in a split second into that heightened state of alertness that is made to have your physical body move. So either like fight and like push something back, and then like literally cursing or punching or biting, like those primal instincts are moving the threat away. Flight is like I literally escape. I literally like run out of the room. And then there's freeze, which is a whole other topic. But I think I'm just going to stick for this.
Well, and I think we often hear the physical examples, you know, running from a tiger or running, you know, getting hit by a car. But the interpersonal stuff was just as survival related.
Absolutely.
Because if you got kicked out of a tribe and ostracized from a village, you may not survive.
You die. And I think a part of your body knows this subconsciously.
Yeah, of course. Like it's in our lizard brain.
Exactly.
Like we are part of a community. We are a community species.
Yes.
And so if we,
whether we like it or not.
Yes. And especially that's part of why our families can trigger us so badly is like our families were part of the
Our
era of our
survival.
lives
Yes.
where we were dependent on other people to survive
Yes.
in a different way than we are as adults. I would argue we still really, really, really need people.
Yes.
Yes.
Like physically in person
Absolutely.
people to
Yes.
survive
Yes.
well or to
Absolutely.
thrive.
Yes.
But as a small child, if you piss off the wrong people, like your survival is
yes.
threatened.
Yes. And actually, that's I'm so glad that you're bringing this up, because this brings like another piece that I linked for you, Heather, in that conversation, which was that this social thread, like the social bond, social belonging, literally feels like a thread.
Yeah.
And I think the piece that I brought in that conversation as well was recognizing that this really hard conversation with your sister that you had brought up a pain, a level of pain that is really, really, really deep.
Yeah.
And felt being like really misunderstood and not belonging, and being unseen and abandoned and demonized.
Yeah. All of it. Rejected.
Exactly.
All of it. Yeah.
Exactly. And like,
which for me was the biggest threat, because then it was like my experience of childhood was I was always on the outside of the tribe.
Exactly.
And then I'm dead.
Yeah.
Like that equals death. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yes. And so what I said to you in that moment is like, the pain that you're experiencing in this moment is a familiar pain.
Yeah.
It is not just about this conversation. It's a pain that has been like, that's universal. Intimately.
Yes.
That intimately, that you've experienced many, many times. And that pain is the pain of the rupture of attachment needs.
Yeah.
Which basically means that like,
we're never repaired.
That were never repaired. Yeah. So basically means that the attachment needs is like what we need as
we didn't
little
choose
ones.
those needs either.
We didn't choose those needs either.
And they are universal needs.
They are universal
by the way.
needs, which
Universal needs.
Yes.
Of like having a consistent parental figure, like the connection with mom and dad, like and caregivers in general, but primary caregivers, I'm gonna say, that is like consistent, present, and warm and attuned, which means that like you can actually the parent is able to pick up on what the little one needs, even when they don't know how to express it yet.
Yeah.
Just by their expression of emotion. So if a little one is falling down on the street and scraping their knee, an attuned parent is going to come to the little one and say like, oh, you fell down, ouch, that hurts, oh, it's normal that you would cry, come here and I'll just pick you up and then comfort you. And a misattuned parent would be basically
how dare
saying,
you fall down, you
so
dumbass.
or just like boys don't cry, like you stop being a sissy,
brush it off,
right? Or brush it off, like exactly.
You're tough.
So it's like it's a denial or like a dismissal or minimizing of the kid's experience. And if that happens too often, then we get the message that how we are is unacceptable. Yeah. Basically. And your whole identity gets constructed on top of that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's a very, very deep pain when this attachment, secure attachment that is warmth, affectionate, consistent, present, conscious, with a lot of holding, when it's not there, then anytime that you go to expand and take a step outside of your comfort zone, what's going to come up is the pain of the rupture of the attachment needs. That's basically the biggest and most universal pain that exists. And I've been describing it to you as this is the pain of humanity.
Right.
This is not
a universal
personal
pain. Yes.
It's a universal pain. It's
we all know it.
That we all know. But I mean,
to some degree.
Yeah. I
there
don't.
are secure attached
Yeah,
people.
I don't know like the experience of secure attached people.
Yeah, true.
From,
But I do-
from there, but
The
they're-
majority.
They're rather rare, sadly. I mean, this is why like I call myself a baby advocate, because
Yeah.
if we had more attuned parents, especially in the 0 to 3 years, we would change the world.
Absolutely.
Yes. Agreed.
100%.
The world would shift on its own. If that were the
100%.
case.
100%. Yes.
I want to take this into a very practical place when it comes to creating tangible, creating, designing, making tangible art and creations and businesses, because I think people need some really practical tools of how to work with those voices that want to keep them from creating.
Yeah.
Right. And so if this is your experience, and, a lot of people are very caught up in interpersonal drama all the time because they can't get out of this world, right? Like they can't get out of their nervous system being activated by interpersonal drama all the time. Because if you are in that space, you can literally have a situation every day that brings this up for you.
Yes.
And it
you can manufacture.
You can manufacture or attract or just go through your day looking for them, right?
Yeah.
Because the barista looks at you wrong, or the Uber driver says something that makes you angry, or like you can literally, and your coworkers can definitely piss you off.
Absolutely.
And trigger you, and then you go on social media and somebody posts something and you have to write comments about it, and like you can literally do this every single day and always be in this spinning space where you have no focus, you have no room to create, you can't caretake for your own needs,
Right.
And so like I want to get to the place where it's like, okay, if you've gotten out of that space, because that's kind of step one, right? It's like getting back to caring for your nervous system, getting out of interpersonal drama.
Yeah.
There's plenty of artists that live in interpersonal drama, but
been there forever.
But like if you are kind of moving through that and you get to a place where, okay, I'm like really ready to create something in the world, or I'm really like taking my, hobby of ceramics into a career, and I've got this voice that is telling me that I am not capable, that I don't have the capacity, that I am not as good as all the other people on social media, that, things aren't pretty and perfect and all of those things, enough for me to make a living. There's all of these things that come up that like is the I'm not good enough voice.
Yes. And that's where actually I think I can come back in, because I want to share the impact of like, okay, yes, that was the frame I needed that I didn't have before our conversation. And then like what has happened afterwards, I think is like a testament to the truth of that. Because so after that conversation, it was like, it really, I think I was also primed for the switch out. Like I really didn't want to go back down in there. I wanted to come out, because I'm like, I am done. Like I am tired of like chasing this thing and spinning in this thing and like complain. Like I am so tired and so done. And like, it was like, that piece was so important to me, because it was like really the one thing I was missing to really get myself out. Because it like took me from like going down and in, which I'm really fucking good at, to purge and to like scrape the bottom. Like I'm really good at that. It makes me really good at my work with people. But there was the shift needed, right? Of like, oh, wait, oh, I can zoom out. I can look at it from, this is a human pain. This is the thing, like something we all can share. Most of us can share. So then it was like, it created this separation between how I saw myself through the critical eye, through my family's view of me, whatever the case may be, and like really step out and be like, really look at myself more clearly, right? Where it's like, I know how to take care of myself. Like I ask for help when I need it. I like am supported by like people. Okay, I am safe. I am good. I can be with it. it really built some confidence in me that I didn't have in that spot. Then I'm like, wow, everything is kind of naturally shifting of like how I create, how I look at my creations, because the clarity that can come, right? So I was like, okay, I just want to focus. I have so many things I can offer, but I really want to focus on coaching. Right. And then, okay, cool. So have that piece of clarity. And then the next piece, and then the next piece can come. Right. And then it's like, oh, what is it that I'm really doing? What is it that I'm really in service to that like I have been through and can hold? And oh, there it is. Right. I feel like it kind of can clear the shit colored glasses. And then all of a sudden things are clearer. And then you can take action. Like taking action on that clarity more confidently. Yeah. Right. Because it's like, oh, I'm not just like, I am.
Right. And I want to say
torture and pain.
Yes. And creating from torture and pain is also a very valid place of creation.
Yeah.
But somehow.
No, but that's like really where I like would stop creation. Like, because it was like, oh, I'm tortured and in pain. So who am I to help people? Right. Yeah. It's kind of the imposter syndrome where it's like, well, I haven't made it all the way through yet. So I don't really have business doing this yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then just that shift of perspective was like, oh, pop.
But I want to say like a few things here, because you also did a fuck ton of work on yourself before that point. Yeah. And we don't get to choose when it pops or not.
That's true. Yeah. It just so happened to pop.
It just so happened to pop for you because you were right for it. And I used the words that clicked for you. Right. Right. So I kind of want to come back to what you were asking for.
Yes.
On like, okay, well, I have this voice. I do want to create, but I have this voice and it's like completely stopped me from creating. Like, what do I do?
Yeah. Or you're creating behind closed doors. I mean, a lot of the time people, and this is part of the creation of Jumping Bean, is like, I wanted to give people a place that wasn't social media, that was a friendly space, that wasn't an artist critique space like in school, that if you want feedback or you want critique, we offer that. But also you can come here and share the work that you've been doing behind closed doors, because the inner critic won't let you share bigger.
Yes.
Right? Or won't let you, and like we're here to give you some confidence and some executive skills to get to the next step of that creation.
And actually that goes straight into what I was going to say, because like for me, if you're in a spot where you're like, I really, really want to create, but like I'm just like doing it for myself right now, or I'm like so scared of like bringing it out. Yeah. Like this, like where I go with this is like, you're probably expecting of yourself way too much. And I think the way that you're like, probably the way that you're thinking of like what you want to do is really based on desire, which is great. We love desire. We love desire. We love big desires. We love big ambition. But there is a way that, for example, like, I can feel that I have a book inside of myself. There's a book inside of myself and I can feel that it wants to come out. And that becomes somehow like, it becomes like our idea of what a step is. Yeah. It's like, now the step that I need to take is write the book.
Right. Give birth to the book.
Yeah. And then when actually like this write the book thing is like the top of the mountain that has thousands of staircases. Yeah. But you're looking at this thing that is like so far away. Yeah. And so makes sense that the inner critic would be like, I cannot do that, or like I'm scared, or I'm not good at this, or I don't have the skill, because you know what? It's fucking true. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. It's true. It's because like you're tasting your future.
And that's what we do, right? Is we compare people's end product to our beginning.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what social media is fucking terrible for.
Yeah. Exactly.
And even reading when you are a writer and you have a book inside you, and you know that, I'm one of those people, and you read full books constantly. Yeah. And sometimes it's their first novel. But you don't read their 87,000 short stories.
Exactly.
Or their, all these other unpublished works. Right. Or their journals, right?
Yeah, or like their notes app that like have unfinished sentences.
Yes. That's my note app.
Yeah. Or just like, that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we are attuned to big desires and big steps. And I think you're very prone to experience a lot of inner criticism when this is like your way of thinking and your way of orienting. Like you're thinking in terms of goals. And there's like this goalpost that is like outside of you, it is far away, and you just have to work really hard at it. And like, to me, like the whole thing leads to experiencing inner criticism.
Yeah.
Versus if you're like, what is the tiny little step that I can take that goes in the direction of writing a book, for example, that I actually feel capable of.
Yeah.
Like it's like I'm not fighting myself. It doesn't feel hard. It's not something that is unattainable. And usually the answer is gonna feel like so fucking small that you're gonna feel stupid.
Yes.
Like if the answer is like, well, I can like take a sheet of paper and write 3 words on it. That is something that I can do. And you're like, that doesn't fucking matter. Like that's not enough. Like that's not enough. That's not.
But I will tell you, from that shelf of toddler books over there, 3 words is a book, apparently.
On to the next.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, but the thing is that like when you experience yourself taking like tiny step after tiny step and then checking this voice that tells you that it's not enough, you're actually building evidence for yourself that you are someone that is writing a book.
Yeah.
And you're also like gaining experience. And through this experience, you feel more secure inside of yourself of like, oh, I did this. And okay, it was not perfect. There was like something that went a little wonky over here. And maybe I can tweak that like next time. But you're actually building mastery.
Yeah.
And so it's like tiny little step after tiny little step after tiny little step after tiny little step. It looks like nothing is happening.
Yeah.
As you're doing it, which is the most frustrating part. For months and years on end, it feels so small and so slow that it feels like nothing is happening. And then one day you wake up and it pops, and it's like,
Well,
like one day it's like, shit, I have like a first draft of a book now that I can send to a publisher. And it's like and then it gets real. But to me, that's built on solid foundations, because you actually did all the tiny little work and the tiny little thing, and you went into the detail, and it's like it's full. Like you have it. You're not trying to convince yourself. And I think people are just going too fast.
Yeah.
I think people are aiming too, like
which
I don't,
fucks up their nervous system.
Yeah. Because they can't hold it. They can't hold the kind of expansion that they're going for.
Like if somebody gave someone a book advance tomorrow and they didn't have any words on the page and they hadn't gotten up and written, they would blow the money.
Yeah.
Right? Or like they would do something to sabotage it so that their nervous system would feel safe again.
Exactly.
And that, I think a lot of people kind of think they want to be handed a contract or handed a guarantee that their creative steps are going to take them to the outcome that they hope, right? Or to the type of following or the type of money or whatever that they that they hold in high regard, but they literally could not handle it if they got it tomorrow, because the inner critic would probably take it. Would probably take it away and say like, well, this isn't yours.
And you're not good enough yet, and you don't do this well enough, and well, you should just go off and die. Just fuck it. But I mean, and I think that is to your point. Like I did. Like you did painstaking,
you did the work,
slow, painstaking, dedicated, fucking work. And then all of a sudden, you give me a frame that pops.
And
I'm
it looks
like, and all these things are changing that I've been wanting to change.
Or all these things lined up.
And then all of a sudden, just like bing, 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 bing. And I'm like, oh shit.
And it looks like it's this one conversation we had that changed everything.
It's true.
But it's not true. It's not true. It's the work that you did before that, before we met.
Yeah.
And then
years of work.
years of building capacity,
Yeah.
of feeling my feelings, of letting things change naturally, of facing the pain,
Yeah.
all the little beasts that live
Yeah.
inside,
Yeah.
all the things.
And it's also not an arrival.
That's true.
It's not a rival.
You
That's
were
true.
going to come back around probably to
Yes.
the same sister. I swear to God, our siblings are here to hassle us into enlightenment. I saw
They
something
know all about us.
that was like siblings exist to give you an understanding of how much you can annoy and harass someone without them killing you. Like that is pretty much what they're here to do. And it might be without them killing you, without you killing them. There's something about sibling contracts.
But I
But
do
you
think
will
it was-
come back
yeah.
around
Yes.
with someone else or with that's it. But it's at a different level.
Yes.
And
where
you're
I'm
able
like,
to
I hit a new baseline.
Yes.
Right. Where
you're
yeah.
able to handle that conversation differently. Your nervous system responds differently.
Right.
You're not spinning afterwards. Like
right.
you'll start to notice that like, wow, I didn't spin this time.
Yeah.
I knew what I said was clean and
Yes.
clear
Yes.
and direct.
Yes.
And like they may not have taken it well, but I feel good about it.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
I have a clear head
Yes.
and a clear heart about
Clear
it.
conscience, Yes.
And something about, maybe it's triggered them, but like that's not for me to hold.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the inner critic
But then
can't
also
really
that
have
it
much to
doesn't
say about it.
sabotage my life, right? In a way where it's like, oh, that's the new baseline. Is it no longer is going to like block like the baseline level of truth,
Mhm.
right? Of like, okay, I can see myself clearly. I'm still able to create. I'm not like criticizing myself so much that I don't even show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that I'll never experience that particular
Right.
pain again. It's just like, your relationship to it changes or
Yes.
Yeah.
it's you spiral.
You get better at it.
Same but different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You get better at it
Yeah.
every time. I
Yeah.
kind of want to like add like one more thing on like the practical side of like dealing with the inner critic.
Yeah,
So-
tools.
Yeah, the
and-
tools. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in coming back with the example of writing a book, let's say that like, okay, you did the work and you took like all the little steps and you arrived to like having your first draft. And now like the only step that is available is like you actually have to send it to a publisher.
Which
And
feels
that it
like
feels
a
big.
leap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels
Yeah.
like a leap. Okay. So what needs to happen in that spot is to be clear with yourself that this is going to challenge you.
Mhm.
That this is going
This is
to
an edge.
that this is an edge.
Yeah.
You name it to yourself first, like consciously. Okay, this is an edge,
Mm-hmm.
and it means that like I'm gonna need holding myself consciously before, during, and after.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after, and I think people are really fucking bad at the after. So
And the before,
Yeah.
probably.
the before,
Like
the
the
before
preparation.
usually for me feels like the desire is cooking. Like
Mhm.
sometimes it needs a little bit of time for me to feel ready, and there is a point where like I'm sick of myself
Mhm.
for like waiting, and I'm like I gotta do it.
Gotta
Like
move.
now I gotta move.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if I want something to actually happen, like I gotta do something.
Yeah.
So this is usually what leads me to that, and there's
Amen.
a point,
Yes.
right?
That's so right. Yes.
Then you do the thing, you're kind of like freaking out as you're doing it.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the after is what counts.
Mm.
The after is where you need to focus on two things. You need to expect the inner critic to show up. Like actually expect that like I just hit post, I just sent the email.
Mhm.
It's like now, like for the next 3 hours, I'm not gonna be able to do anything.
Mhm.
Like I literally scheduled this in
I love that.
my calendar.
That's amazing.
Yes. It's like
post care.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Literally, like after I do workshops and stuff, like the day after, I don't fucking work.
Yeah.
I don't work because I know that I'm not gonna be able to sleep
Yeah.
like properly. That I'm gonna need to go for a walk. That I'm gonna need to take a bath. That I'm gonna need to journal. That I'm gonna need to call a friend. Like I actually plan for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's
Like
and
how loving.
yeah, it is. It is really loving, and it's like you can't always like. My experience of the inner critic is like it really has gone down a lot, but I still experience it, and I don't think
Yeah.
I will stop experiencing it like completely ever.
Yeah.
But I'm getting really good at interrupting it. I'm getting really good at like catching it. I'm getting really good at caring for myself when it's there. So it doesn't have as much of an impact that it used to. It's still present, but it's not as loud and as powerful. It doesn't have as much power over me. Right?
Yes.
So this aftercare aspect is something that people do not plan for,
right?
And this is where like your nervous system is going to be in this fight or flight and have this really big experience. So you want to have like somatic practices that bring your body back to a sense of safety. And I have 2 basic ones for this that I can share that are really easy to do. First one is blowing raspberries.
I knew you were going to say that. I was like, it's become my favorite thing.
Heather knows
like walking around work. So
I would definitely like recommend you to just like try it like for a few seconds, like hit pause on the podcast or whatever, and just like try it for like even 30 seconds. Just taking a breath and you kind of look crazy. You kind of need to allow for the crazy.
You look really uncomfy. What the fuck is she doing?
Go to a private place if you need to do that. It's releasing the tension. It's releasing the tightness. It's releasing like this energy and motion that is in the body. It's like giving its expression. That's like what I would start with. And the second one is grabbing a pillow. Yeah, it's like grabbing a pillow that you have nearby and putting it in front of your torso, in front of your chest, kind of like giving it a hug and taking a breath and just noticing that the pillow in front of you is kind of bringing a level of
like
comfort and coziness. And an extra layer of boundary in the front part of the body that is very vulnerable. Like literally, like we have all of our organs right there, like the heart.
I love it.
Like like all like the lungs and like the digestive
it's how we get so curved.
Yeah,
like curved in is to
protect. So the pillow is like literally playing the role of protection. And just focusing, just like slowing down for a few seconds to just notice the difference between having a pillow in front of you and what part of your body is softening from just holding the pillow and like how cozy you get versus like taking it out and noticing the space in front of you. And like usually there's a bit more like tightness or like you have to hold yourself up a little bit more. So this is like a really good grounding exercise that is super fucking simple that you can basically do kind of like anywhere without being too socially awkward about it,
I love that.
So those are like the 2 basic ones that I would give to start. There's of course a lot more, but like that's why courses and programs and stuff like
get a guide too.
Get a guide. For sure.
And one of the things too that like if you do like to journal, if you do like to write, if you do like to do some of the more internal work is like this inquiry of talking to the critic. The critic talks to you all damn day long, like talking to the critic and just asking it like what it needs, why it's here, who is it, whose voice is it,
getting curious,
curious about why it's here, and a lot of the time it will say like it's not safe. That's usually what mine says, like you can't do that, it's not safe. It's like that like like kind of crazy like caregiver in a way. But it's like, no, stay small, stay in your house, like go curl up in a corner, don't let anybody see you, and like you'll be safe. And obviously that's not true either. So totally. Almost kind of trying to reason, but also like getting curious, getting an understanding of what the purpose, why did this voice develop? Like really and, like, understanding what does it want? Everything.
It depowers it. To do that kind of inquiry. For sure.
Well, but I think that's really like the power of it too, is like it for me, that new frame brought in so much more love and compassion, right? It's like, I can now see this protection mechanism or like this function from a place of love and understanding and like, oh, so then I'm like not fighting against it or like bracing myself against it or trying to push it away. It becomes then like something that I befriend.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, oh, I know you, I know where you come from. And like, how can I then address the need underneath it or like work, like, how can we work together to like move a little bit, right? Or like go in the direction of a creation, of a repair, of an action that is value driven, right? Like, I want to do this for this thing and I want to do this brush stroke on this, you know, like where it just brings you back, right? And then you can like go together and not like fight against each other.
Yeah.
So I love that.
And sometimes you just have to say, like, get out of my way.
Yeah. Yeah. like, nope, not today.
Lovingly, but like firmly, you know, it's like, no, we're not doing this today. And, you know, I will be hitting post on this thing and, you know, I'm not going to let you kind of sabotage what I need to say into the world or what I need to create or how I need to be seen.
Yeah, this goes more towards like boundaries within the inner critic.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then deeper layers.
Yeah.
Deeper layers.
Yeah.
Very meaty.
So tell us where people can reach out to you, and obviously we'll put it in all of the, you know, captions, but but where can people find you? How can people work with you?
So I mainly share on Instagram right now. That's my main platform. Like, I'm working with my own nervous system capacity, you know, and like I do not have capacity to be on all platforms, unfortunately, which is kind of why like my work feels very intimate. So it's like my handle is like Cecile.Terrillon. So it's like my first name dot my last name. It's really hard to pronounce. So, and I do one-on-one work with people. Like, it can be just like one session all the way up to like six months of one-on-one work. And I also releasing different workshops and different programs in general. I actually it's in the works, and I am planning currently to do, I think it's going to be like a 6-week experience on the inner critic and like anchoring into baseline of self-celebration and feeling more rich and havingness inside of yourself. So it's still in development, but looking at my Instagram is like where you will get all of the latest updates on that. And
Cool. Okay.
over there.
Yes.
All over there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
And just a little bit about Jumping Bean, because I like to talk about this a little bit at the end. We are a membership-based design collective, and we invite all creatives of all disciplines to join us for touch bases with each other, bringing in client work to each other, and from the outside for very accessible design collaborations and workshops and consultations. And we have lots of good conversations between the members about all of these types of topics that are relevant to the creative process. And we're a gentle bunch. So if you
gentle
want,
fun bunch.
so if you have projects that haven't seen the light of day and you need to get them out to someone, we are a really great place to start. So join us on our website, details in the captions.
Yes, thank you so much for being willing to come
Thank
on
you.
and share your brilliance and
Thank you
here.
It's been so much fun.
I think we will have you back.
Oh, I would love to be
Absolutely.
back.
It'd be really fun. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Till next time. Thank you for listening. If you are looking for more information about the Jumping Bean Magic Collective, please visit us at our website, www.jumpingbeanmagiccollective.com. There, you can become a member, reach out with questions, or become a design client. You may also find us on Instagram and Threads. If you enjoyed listening, please rate the show. See you next time.